as the children's ministry partner. And really what that means is my job is to help out children's ministries around the state as much as I can. Mark Jones works with me and helps with Bible school and Bible drill and everything besides camp. My primary job is to program the summer camp. And for you guys that are here from GLPA, let me tell you that I take it as a great privilege that you have trusted us with your summer camp this year. And I know it's going to be way different. I know it's going to be frustrating in some ways, but better in some ways. And I want you to know that I take it very seriously that you guys have given us this opportunity. So as we talk through this, you're going to have lots of questions. Please feel free to ask any question at any time. Raise your hand, we'll stop.
That's Eric.
If you're facing a question,
They'll be putting their hands in the future.
Now sometimes I might say, yeah, we're going to get to that. But we want to answer any questions that you have. Let's talk about the agenda for today.
See what I
At
did
12
there?
o'clock, we're going to take a break to get our food because it'll be here right at 12 o'clock. We're going to continue the meeting as we eat because otherwise we'll be here till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about. Done the introduction. We're going to talk about our theme for this year. We're going to talk about the mission stops that we do. We're going to walk through the church guide a little bit, the sponsor guide, talk about some camp improvements that have been done here, and then talk about what's new. For most of you, what's new isn't really relative. So, everything is new. All right. So here's people you need to know. Dax, will you stand up? Everybody know Dax?
Hey, Dax.
Dax is our camp manager. Is that the right
Camp caretaker.
Camp caretaker.
Manager.
He's going to be my best friend this summer.
He's a friend.
He is. So I'm super glad that he's going to be around this summer. Life will be good because of that. Mayor is our equivalent to him and David. Okay. So let's talk about our theme and why we do what we do. So one of the things that we want to do, the biggest thing that we want to do is to be able to share the gospel with boys and girls. Not only to share the gospel, but to share it multiple ways in multiple places at multiple times, and also give them an opportunity to respond to that message. So I have a team of about 15 children's ministers from around the state. Some of them are from up here, some of them are from south, all over the state that help me in this programming process of summer camp. So this is our theme for this year is John 3:30, I must. So you're going to see that in a minute, but he must increase, but I must decrease. So that's our theme for this year is we want to be more like Christ. So we want kids that are not Christians to become like Christ in a saving faith. We want kids that are already a Christian to be more like Christ when they leave. We want sponsors that come to summer camp to be more like Christ when they leave. We want Scott and Dax to be different because of coming to camp. So here's what the theme looks like this year. This church doesn't look like that.
I'm pastor, amen.
Hey, I'm doing my best, man. So you're gonna, every kid that comes to camp and every sponsor that comes to camp is gonna get a t-shirt. Don't worry if when you register, you're gonna put down the t-shirt size for everybody that's coming to camp. And I know what happens. You put that down, and then when they come to camp, you put that shirt on, it doesn't fit. You're like, well, what do we do now? Just come to the office and say, hey, this t-shirt doesn't fit. Can I switch it out? And we'll take care of that. Because I ordered 7,500 t-shirts in 2020.
Yeah.
And I want you to know that the guys that printed those for me, they bought the t-shirts before I canceled camp. And then when we had to cancel camp, they held on to those for a year. Wow. So we still got the same price that we would have gotten in 2020, but have a whole bunch of t-shirts. So the way our camp works, on day one, we're going to talk about the theme. The camp pastor that comes will talk about the theme, and every session is a different pastor. And when I first took this job, I thought, man, that's going to be terrible to listen to pastors preach the same thing over and over and over. And I have been amazed at how different each pastor brings this message and how none of them are the same. And our staff is just like, that last guy didn't say that. Wow. So it's really good. So on day one, we talk about the theme. On day two is an evangelism push. Now, that's kind of deceptive because that's all we really do is push evangelism. But from the pulpit, the pastor will be talking about evangelism. He's going to use John 3:7. Do not be amazed, I told you must be born again. This is what the camp staff shirt's going to look like that day. Our staff will have a different shirt on every day so that you can make sure that you know who they are. And it's got a great big staff sign on the back. Day 3 is instruction from the Word. He must. John 12:26. If anyone serves me, he must follow me. Where I am, there my servant will also be. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. We want to make sure that the kids that come to camp know that they're expected to grow. This is the shirt for that day. Anybody been in the military? Anybody been in the Army? If you've been in the Army, you're going to know what that is. That's it. And if you don't, that's okay. Now, we've spent 3 days with your kids, and you've spent 3 days with your kids. And when we get ready to go home, we want to make sure that we send them out with a challenge. And our challenge is Hebrews 2:1. For this reason, we must pay attention all the more to what we've heard so that we will not drift away. And if you don't think that's a great verse for 2021, wow. And we picked this in 2019. So this is the same theme that we were going to use last summer. And I'm amazed how God has done as well with that. So, our shirt really doesn't match Day 4's verse at all. It'll have it on there, but the reason why we have this shirt is because my very first session of camp as director, Will Wilson was the pastor at Davis, and he came in. We had 440 some kids there that day, and he got up on stage and he had all the kids sing "Jesus Loves Me." I was like, wow, 450 kids sing "Jesus Loves Me." That's a baby song, right? Right?
No.
Listen to the words of "Jesus Loves Me." Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. And if you sing that song and go through that song, it's rememberable. Everybody learned that as a little kid. And we can talk to a boy or girl and say, hey, you know, when things are not going good, sing that song. You know that song, sing it. And it'll help you because it's deep, theological, good stuff. And so we're going to have that shirt on. That shirt's also going to be available for sale in the store. It's going to have white on it. Hopefully it'll be pretty cheap. Probably be around $10. Okay. Any questions about any of this? Now, let me tell you a little bit about why we have themes set up like this and what we do and why we do it. Because you're going to bring 3 kinds of kids with you to camp this summer. You're going to bring that one kid that comes to church every single Sunday. He's there all the time. He knows where all the books of the Bible are. He might have better theology than your pastor because he's been in Sunday school every time it's been open. He knows the culture of your church. He knows the language of your church. He knows why you do everything. He's been to every business meeting. He's got it. Some of those kids are lost. They have all the head knowledge in the world, but they have never transmitted that to a saving faith. You have a second kind of kid that comes to your church. They come every other week, maybe. They come on your Wednesday night discipleship, but maybe not on Sunday morning. Their parents might be divorced. They might be on a travel team. It doesn't matter why, but they just don't come every Sunday. They might not know how to find all the books of the Bible. They might not know where everything is. They don't have a clue what your pastor's talking about most of the time. They don't understand the language of your church. They don't understand the culture of your church. Most of them are lost. There's a third kind of kid that comes to church, and these are number 1 and number 2 kids' friend. That they just said, hey man, we're going to summer camp. It's awesome. Let's go. He's probably never been to your church. He has no idea about Jesus. Did you know there's kids in Oklahoma, in Grove, that have never heard anybody say Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life? Those kids are coming to camp. They're all lost. Have never heard any of this before. So we want to be very, very intentional in how we present the gospel. We also want to be very, very careful. And once we've presented the gospel, how we talk to those boys and girls. And one of the things that's going to happen, and we're going to go through the schedule here in just a minute, but on day 1, we're going to have a sponsor meeting, and we're all going to sit together in a sponsor meeting, and I'm going to explain to you exactly how I want you to share the gospel. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how I don't want you to share the gospel. Because that third kid that comes to camp, if we tell him, you've got to be washed in the blood of Jesus. Hallelujah. He's going to look at you, and he's going to go find the closest phone and say, Mom, come get me, these people are crazy. Now, being washed in the blood of Jesus is absolutely right. But they don't know what that means. So we're going to be really careful about that. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of the reason why. When I took this job in 2018, I was so excited to get to interview all of these church staff kids that were going to come and be on our staff. 18 years old in college, man, they got this down. They know what's going on. The first girl sat down in front of me and two other people, and I said, hey, tell me your story about how you came to know Christ in about 2 or 3 minutes. And here's what she said. She said, well, when I was little, I went to summer camp, and I made a decision. Woo! But I didn't know what I was doing. And nothing really changed. And then I went to Fall Street, and I kind of figured it out. I got saved then. Okay, all right. Sat down with the next kid, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be better. Well, you know, when I was a little kid, I got saved at VBS because I went down with 3 of my friends, and I signed a card, and the pastor prayed with me, and I got baptized. And I'm like, yeah, VBS! But I didn't know what I was doing. And when I got older, I got saved. Half of the kids that I interviewed had that same story. Half. Not 10 out of 100. And I was devastated. I'm a children's pastor. That's what I do. I'm a children's pastor. I share the gospel with kids. I closed the deal. Half. And I had to go home, and I was like, my wife's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm in the wrong business. We're doing something wrong. So I had to really evaluate, do I think a kid can really get saved? Because if I don't believe that, I'm not wasting my time with this anymore. I'm going to go do youth ministry or something. Right. Let me tell you something. Kids can get saved and know what they're doing. And they can have a great Christian life with a pretty boring testimony. God can call a 10-year-old to be a senior pastor when they're 10 years old and they understand. Now, what's the problem? What happened with those people that didn't know what they were doing? Was it their fault? Or was it our fault? It's our fault. It was our fault. So how we handle a boy or a girl when we share the gospel and how we close that deal is really, really important. So we're going to spend a lot of time on how not to do it. Probably more time than how to share the gospel, because we all know what the gospel is. The gospel's simple. There's no gospel for adults that's different than the gospel for kids. There's one gospel. Kids are just a little bit more open to it than adults most of the time. Because the reality is, the statistics tell us that a kid is going to make a decision before they are 13 years old about religion, about salvation, about everything by the time they're 13. That's who we're bringing the kingdom. So we're going to spend all the time we can to make sure that we're sharing the gospel well, but that we're following up well. And that we're not manipulating boys and girls into making a commitment, because the boys and girls that come with you to camp want to please you. Even that kid that you think doesn't. They want you to be happy with them. And they will do whatever it takes to make you happy, or to get out of the situation where you're talking to them forever. So we're not going to spend any more time on that, but I want you to know that I take that very seriously. That's my soapbox from that day forward. I have been on the box, and if I've been to your church, I've probably talked about that, because I don't want to stand before God someday. And he said, Charlie, man, I'm so glad you're here. I was like, hey, Jesus, did you see all those kids that got saved at Kingdom? There's like thousands of them. I don't want him to say, yeah, but half of them didn't know what they were doing. I would rather them go home and not have made a decision or a commitment than I would for them to go home with a false idea of what's going on. So while we're going to count numbers and we're going to be excited about numbers, I don't care. I'm not looking for a number. All right? All right. Let's keep going. Let's try that. All right, so Crosstimbers, when you look at the name of it, it's Crosstimbers Children's Missions Adventure Camp. Ooh, that's a really long name, Children's Missions Adventure Camp. Because we want to talk about missions as much as we have fun. So what we're going to do is every day there's going to be a mission stop and an activity stop, and you're going to get to go to 3 different mission stops while you're camping, 3 different activities. Because as Southern Baptists, what's our big thing? Missions, sharing the gospel with people, right? Go ye therefore. Do it. And sometimes our kids don't quite understand what that means. Because they see people go on short-term mission trips that are older. They see lots of older people go on mission trips. The church is kind of, most of our churches are missions focused. We can take up a missions offering. We might talk about Annie Armstrong sometimes. But kids think it's for sometime later. Yeah, when I grow up, I'll get to do that. Well, we want to make sure the kids understand that they're a missionary where they live, where they are right now. So we're going to talk about missions. And we use Acts 1:8 because your church probably does this too. If you have a missions program at your church, you probably have a local mission that's close to you in the state. You probably have a place you go regularly that's in the United States. And you might have a place that you go outside the country. And you probably do that on a regular basis. Or you might go from 1 year, the next year, next year. A lot of churches don't have the opportunity to do that. And so Oklahoma Baptists have come up with a program called Go Students. Is anybody familiar with Go Students? Am I seeing anybody with Go Students? Go Students is basically a missions opportunity for kids that go to a church that doesn't have missions opportunities for them. So they can pay, they pick the places they scouted out. Well, what better thing for us to do to talk to kids about something that they can do pretty soon? Not only can they do it in high school, but when we talk about a local Oklahoma mission, they can do it as a 6th grader. So that's how we decided what we're going to do. We picked some of those Go Student trips. And this year, I'm not going to give you a whole lot of detail about the mission stop because I want you to come and be involved in that. So Lawton, Oklahoma is our local one. In Lawton, Oklahoma, there's a place called M28 Ministries, and they minister to underprivileged people, homeless people, and people in need, which those people are everywhere. But we're going to focus on them, and they're partners with us. We're going to talk a little bit about who Edna McMillan is. Everybody know Edna McMillan? She's really important, and you need to come to Mission Stop and find out who she is. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to make something to give away in that Mission Stop. So kids are going to spend some time making something. We're going to talk about New York City and why we need to have churches in New York City, because the world is coming to us in New York City. And we have Oklahoma people that are in New York City to do that. Who knows who Annie Armstrong is? Sometimes our kids don't know, because we talk about it maybe once a year, and we're going to just reinforce that here. New York City, they're going to learn how to share the gospel in a way. It's not the only way, it's a way. I'm not going to tell you a whole lot more about that. Our international mission stop is Peru, but it's really not Peru. It's really Venezuela, because the disaster that's happening in Venezuela is making people decide, do I want to stay here in Venezuela where I grew up, or do I want to feed my family? And many, many thousands of people are having to leave Peru, or leave Venezuela to go to Peru. And there is an active mission opportunity for Southern Baptists in that transition for those refugees. And we have Southern Baptist missionaries working with them every day. We're going to talk about that. We're going to have a refugee camp here at camp that we're going to do that mission stop in. They're going to get to taste something weird at this mission stop. And they're going to find out who Lottie Moon is. These mission stops last about 1 hour, so they'll have 1 hour every day when they do the mission stop. Okay? All right, now let's stop right here and everybody pull out your schedule. Schedule looks like this, because I kind of want to walk you through what a day of camp looks like and the whole week of camp, really. Crosstimbers at Grand Lake is a little bit different than Crosstimbers at Davis, just because the numbers are smaller right now. Someday they're going to be big like Davis, and we'll have 2 groups. But right now we only have 1 group, which works out really good, it feels good, it goes fast. So let's talk about So on day one, whatever that day one is, it could be a Monday, it could be a Thursday, it could be any day really. We have 4 days of camp. So on day one, our gates are going to open at 9:30 in the morning. So that mean you have to be here at 9:30? No. Now, GLBA people, you're going straight to your cabin. Some of this doesn't matter to you. Some of it, if you're not GLBA, you'll be told what cabin you're going to go to. The first thing you're going to do is check in with the office, and the office is right over there, and we'll tour afterwards. Bring all your documents to the office. While you're checking in, your kids can go straight to their cabin. Our staff will help you unpack your buses, but they're not going to carry it in for you. So they'll help you get your bus cleaned out, but they won't move you into the cabin. So you're going to move into the cabin. At 11 o'clock, we're all going to meet in the chapel. Now we do something that other people do, but one of the things we want is we want you to hang out with your kids. We want you to be with your kids as much as possible. We don't want you to have to do any work. We don't want you to have to plan anything. We want you to hang out with your kids. So our staff is going to take care of everything. So when we go into this at 11 o'clock, we're going to then separate boys and girls by age and gender. Because 90% of the time at camp, they're going to be with you and your church and your sponsors. And your sponsors are going to be responsible for them. But one time a day, after evening chapel, we're going to split them up in tribes. And basically what that means is, depending on the number of staff that I have, we'll split them up to every staffer will have a group of boys or girls with them that are the same age and grade. The reason why we do that is because we know that boys and girls that come to camp need you to listen to them and hear them and talk to them, because they know you. They might not know you if they're that third kid, but they'll get to know you. We want you to spend a lot of time with your kids to get to know them, because when you go home, the staffer stays here. But the kid goes home with you, and they might start coming to your church, and I want you to know them. I want them to know you, so they can come and talk to you about questions. We know that's good. But we also know that kids sometimes need somebody that doesn't know their history and doesn't know who they are to listen to them. That's what this tribe time is all about. This tribe time is about 30 minutes long. It's at the end of the day. The staff is going to sit down with 10 or 15 girls, and just the first day they're going to share their testimony, tell them who they are and where they came from and why they're at camp. Talk to them about their day. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? They're going to talk about what the pastor talked about. They're going to talk about the mission stop they've been at, or the adventure stop they've been at. What did you do today? How did it go? And really, that's going to be an interactive time for them to learn and know other people. But really what happens here, what's significant about this time, is that a lot of kids get saved during that time. A lot of kids ask questions. And a lot of times kids will lead other kids to Christ in that time. So that's a really important time. Okay, so we're going to meet that, and as that happens, that's when we're going to have that sponsor meeting I told you about, where we're going to sit down in here while they're in there with all the sponsors, and we're going to go through that whole process of how to share the gospel. That takes about an hour. And then we're going to talk about the sponsor guide just a little bit, but I'm depending on you to have already had a sponsor meeting and talk through all that before they get here. Now, obviously, there'll be some questions when they get here, but we'll deal with that. After the tribe meeting and sponsor meeting, we're going to have lunch at 12:30. Lunch is in here. Food at this place is phenomenal. You guys have all been here, so you know. If you guys haven't been here, food's great. The food's very good. As soon as lunch is over on day one, we're going to go back into the chapel and we're going to have a kickoff. And when I say that, what's that mean? That means our staff is going to be in there leading the worship time. The pastor will probably just say hi. We're going to do a lot of fun and games things in that time. And then we're going to move from there. We're going to talk about the rules of camp, what to do, what not to do, that kind of thing with the kids. And our rules are really simple, and we'll talk about them in a minute. But as soon as that's over, we're going to split up and go to mission stops on day one. If you've ever been to camp before, you know that's not always been the case, and I'm super excited about this new schedule change. But we're going to send them off to the mission stop. You'll already know from being in the office the first day what mission stop you go to and where it is, because I'm going to show you where the mission stops are. We'll split the group up into thirds, basically. And everybody's going to go to a certain mission stop. Boys go to missions and girls go to swim. And they'll flip-flop and girls go to swim and boys go to missions. However that, if I said that backwards, I don't know. What I'm saying to you is that girls and boys are not going to be in the swimming pool together. Ever. Ever. Okay, moving on. After we have missions that day, and the missions it's about 4 hours, 3.5 hours, and we're gonna have dinner. Again, the food is really good. After dinner, every night, we will do the same schedule every night. So after dinner, we're gonna have a thing called Tribal Chaos. On day 1, that means it's sock wars. Sock wars is like capture the flag, but we use socks with colored cornstarch in them. And then the tribes will then kind of work together against each other to try to capture as many flags as they can. There's a t-shirt for the team that wins the most flags and things like that. Sock wars is a mess. Sock wars, we're going to split 3rd and 4th graders from 5th and 6th graders. 5th and 6th graders play together, 3rd and 4th graders play together, because we found out that 6th graders are very aggressive. And they don't care if you're a 3rd grader that's never been to camp before. They will hit you in the face. And then they will knock you down to get your sock. So we separate them. That works out really good. They play in different portions of the camp. They play against each other, but not together. All right. It is a mess, so we're going to give you some time to take your kids back to the cabin and rinse off, clean up, wipe that stuff out of their eyes, because we know that if they go straight from that into the chapel, all they're going to be doing is this. Because it's all over them. Now, let me say this right now. I would like for you to have all of your kids bring a white t-shirt for that day. All of your kids need to bring a white t-shirt. It doesn't have to be a perfect white t-shirt. It doesn't have to be one. They need to know that it's not going to be white when they're done. It's going to have all kinds of colors on it. So then after that, we're going to have chapel. Chapel will follow those things that we talked about, those themes for the day. Every day in chapel, there will be an invitation. The invitation will kind of change as we go. The day 1, it'll really be just about, hey, if you need to put your faith in Jesus Christ, that's a good thing to do. Let's do that. And what's going to happen is the pastor, while we're saying that we're not doing anything different because COVID, we're going to have camp as normal because we think COVID is kind of done. It's not. We're not going to ask sponsors to come down to the front. What we are going to do in there is we're going to separate churches together. We're going to ask you to sit with your church. We're going to tape it off so you know exactly where to sit. We're going to give you just the number of chairs you need. We want you to sit there every time you go in. So whenever the pastor gets to the invitation, he says, sponsors, please stand up in front of your group. I want you to have one male and one female sponsor stand up in front of their group, in front of your group. And basically what they're going to do is any kid that wants to make a decision is going to stand up and walk to you. And then you're going to walk off with them. You need to talk to your sponsors about, hey, when you walk off, somebody else needs to stand up. Because, again, when we go to the sponsor meeting, I'll talk to you about not doing more than one kid at a time. Okay? So be ready for that. There are some sponsors that you're going to bring that probably won't be good at that. There are some sponsors that you're going to bring that are going to be really good at that. Use your brain in there. Okay? All right, after chapel, that's when we have tribe time. So the kids that are talking about Jesus for the first time, or they're talking about whatever decision they're making, other kids are going to go off to tribe time. So that's when you're going to have to be good at what you do. And because they're going to go, oh, there goes my tribe. Yeah, I'll pray, whatever. So make sure you're doing that well and keeping their attention. It's okay to say, let's talk to you tomorrow. So the tribes go off and do their thing, and as we have the tribe time, we'll have a sponsor meeting right outside of the canteen, where all the sponsors come to the canteen. We'll talk about the day. One of the things we're going to have available for you is a QR code. You can take your phone out, zoom on that QR code, and it'll open up a questionnaire. Basically, it's an evaluation. In the past, we've given 2 pieces of paper to your whole group and said, hey, fill us out, tell us how we did, tell us if we did something good, tell us if we did something bad on the last night. Which is great, we got some good feedback. But I'd really like to hear from your day as you did it, so that I can make some good changes as we need to. So you'll be able to fill that out every night if you want to. It's not required, it just helps me. All right, after that, after canteen is over, you're going to be released to do whatever you want to do. Go to bed. You could have church devotions if you wanted to. You can go to a certain place and hang out and talk to your church if you want to. This day has been long on day 1. This has been a long day. I'm fine with if you want to do that. But on day 2, you're going to think, man, because your kids are going to be doing that. You have the opportunity to do that if you want. You need to be in bed as soon as you can get. So day 2 and day 3 are pretty similar. Quiet time in the morning. So they're going to get a book that looks nothing like this. This is what we gave out in 2019. So inside this book, it has a place for them to write down what happens in the chapel. It also has a place for them to write down their quiet time. And we're going to teach them how to have a quiet time on day 1 or 2. And it also teaches them how to have a quiet time in here. If you want them to do this, they need to see you do it. It doesn't have to be at 7:30, but we think it's important, so we schedule it. It could be in the afternoon when we have a break. But this book is going to be helpful to you. All right. There's lots of stuff in there. Oh, by the way, when chapel happens, they need to bring this book and a pen with them to chapel and a Bible. So they need to bring a Bible to camp. So when they're in there, there's some stuff in here that looks like it might be distracting. And for some kids it is. But there are other kids that need to be doing this while they're listening. And if we can focus them to these things that are helpful, that's better than something else. Because my little girls, when they were little, I would be so frustrated with them because I'm a children's pastor and they're supposed to sit still and be quiet. But they needed to scribble. And I would ask them, I'd say, okay, I know you weren't listening today. What did the pastor say? And they would give me the 3 outline sermon of what he said. Finally, one day I got tired and I said, no, today you just put the pencil down and you just listen. And they did. And we got in the car and said, hey, what do you think about the last sermon? I don't know. What do you mean I don't know? What did you hear? Nothing. So I let them scribble. So don't worry about kids that are sitting there with their little book scribbling during the sermon, okay? I know that we would rather everybody sit and look like this. That doesn't work for most people. So don't be worried about that too much. Okay, so quiet time. We'll have flagpole every morning, which is out here by the flagpole. We're going to ask your churches to circle around that flagpole. Stay together as a church. We're going to pray. We're going to pledge allegiance to the flag. We're going to sing God Bless America. And then we're going to randomly pick someone to go first to breakfast. And when we randomly pick that one person, that church to go to breakfast, you have to sing a song to get to go eat. There's really no reason why we do that other than to stagger people into breakfast. So once you sing the song and you go into breakfast, there will be some rules, but we're not going to worry about the rules right now. They're simple. Somebody else will sing, everybody goes to breakfast, there's plenty of time to get in and out. Okay? So if you're a musical person, you probably want to prepare for that. If you're like me, it was like, okay, who wants to pick the song? Okay, so flagpole's fun. After breakfast, we'll go straight to morning chapel. Morning chapel is shorter than evening chapel. Morning chapel, the pastor's going to talk for maybe 10 minutes. If I can keep him for 10 minutes, it'll be less than 10 minutes. He's going to talk about how to pray one morning and how to have a quiet time one morning. On the 4th day, he's going to do that. He's going to have 20 minutes on the 4th day because that's our last time the challenge gets to go out. We'll sing some songs, we'll have some fun, and at the end of that, we're going to send your kids out by groups to wherever they're going. So whoever's the farthest away, we'll let them go first and kind of go to where they need to go. All right. In the mornings, it'll be activities. Unless it rains in the morning, then we'll have missions in the morning, we'll have activities in the afternoon. If it rains during the time we have activities, we won't have that activity that day, and we won't be able to make it up. But we'll do some inside games. You guys got a nice, big, huge cover down there that's going to block the rain. You can do all kinds of fun things down there. All right, then we'll have lunch, and after lunch we'll have quiet time. And what I mean by that is nobody needs to be running around campus. During that time on day 2, everybody's going to need to sit down and just rest. It's 45 minutes. It's not that long. It gives you 15 minutes to kind of settle back down for lunch, and then about 30 minutes just to be still. And on day 3, man, it's going to be so quiet in your cabin, you're never going to know what happens. You're like, I don't know where these kids went. But make sure that this is also a good time if they're not morning people to do this. Okay? After that, we're going to have missions and swimming. We'll have a canteen in the afternoon in between missions and swimming where kids can go to the store and buy a drink and a snack. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. We'll have dinner. We'll have the evening services again. The same thing on day 3. On day 1, we have sock wars. On day 2, we have organized mass chaos. Organized mass chaos, they're going to get messy and gross. If you've never played organized mass chaos, I want you to be involved. But remember, you're going to have to bring clothes to change into, and toothpaste is a really wonderful thing. That's all I'm saying. Okay. They will give you time to clean up after that. On day 3, night of day 3, we're going to have a block party. So we won't need to clean up after that. In the block party, we're going to have an opportunity for them where they learn to share the gospel in one of the mission stops. They're going to have a chance to practice that with people at the block party. Our staff's going to do some fun games with them, make some balloon animals, some things like that. The reason why we want to have a block party is pretty simple. Almost every national mission project that we have in the United States uses block parties to reach people. Not only that, almost every association in our state has a block party trailer that they can take out for free or at a nominal fee and do a block party anywhere they want. And if a kid can see that and say, oh, that's not that bad, we could do that. And when you say at your church, hey, we're going to have a block party, the kids are going to go, yeah, I know what that looks like, let's go do it. Because they're going to see it's easy. So that's why we have a block party. The block party means we don't need to clean up, so everything will scoot up about half an hour in order for us to get to bed earlier on day 3, which everybody's going to want to do. And you're not going to think, oh, this is a 3-day camp, 4-day camp. We usually go for 6 days. Yeah, but we go from 7:30 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, or 10:30 in your case, without stopping. And it's good stuff, and it's almost like this meeting. We're going to give them so much information they're going to go. Okay? All right. Day 4 is a little bit different. Because we were able to start camp on day 1, going into full activities, day 4 we're going to have activities. We're going to have lunch in here. We're not going to have a to-go lunch. I know it says to-go lunch, but I make lots of mistakes. You'll find that out. We're going to have lunch in here, and then you're going to go home. You have to clean your cabin. If you own the cabin, you still have to clean your cabin because other people will be coming to probably use your cabin. All right. There will be a list on the door of the cabin of how we'd like you to clean it. Now, obviously, if it's yours, you can follow our list or not, but we'd really like you to follow our list. Okay. All right, any questions about camp, the schedule of camp? Because we've gone through the whole camp schedule. Don't worry. There's plenty of time to ask questions. Email me and say, what did you mean by such and such? Okay. So why do we do Crosstimbers? We do Crosstimbers to support local church efforts to reach lost kids in their community and to raise up a generation of kids with authentic walk with God who actively serve Him in mission living. That's what you do with your church, right? You're trying to move people from lost to engaged. That's what we do. And we want to do it with you. We want to learn biblical principles for worship, missions, evangelism, and life. So we're going to do all those things every day. Create and strengthen relationships with God, family, and others. The one thing that I love about Crosstimbers, and I have been to all kinds of camps. I've gone to the camp where I was the game director and had a group of boys that I had to work with, and I was the game director. I've gone to camps where they did all the work, and I've gone to camps where I was the only one there. So I get it. The one thing I love about Crosstimbers, when I first came to Crosstimbers as a children's pastor, was, what do you mean I don't have to do anything? You mean all I got to do is hang out with my kids? Yep. That's why we hire summer staff. That's why it costs a little more than a regular camp night, because our summer staff is going to take care of the ropes course and the waterfront and all the target sports and making sure everything's ready. All that stuff, they're going to take care of that for you. All right. All right. GLBA is, your registration is going to be a little bit different than everybody else, but not much. So let's talk about registration for just a second. In your packet, you've got some forms that look like this. There are 3 different forms in there. One is an adult release and waiver of claims form. One is a camper release and waiver of claims form. And one is a junior sponsor release and waiver of claims form. Every single person that comes on campus, no matter what camp you go to, has to have one of these. So your adult sponsors need to fill this out. You need to run a background check on them, and you need to bring me a copy or email me a copy of that background check 10 days before you come to camp. The name is on the side. It's not up here at the top. I need the t-shirt size on there. I need all this information must be done. It must be signed. You have to be 18 years old to sign an adult release form. Sponsors have to be 18 years old or older. Campers, fill out the same form. You should thank me now because this used to be 2 pages, now it's only 1. Again, the name's on the side, there's information that needs to be filled out. A parent or guardian must sign this. If it's not signed, the kid cannot stay at camp. Let's talk about junior sponsors. Let's talk about campers. Who is a camper that can come to Crosstimbers? A camper that can come to Crosstimbers is a kid that has finished the 3rd grade, completed the 3rd grade, through completed 6th grade. So please don't bring 2nd graders. They won't be able to handle it, what we're doing. Please don't bring 7th graders. And I know what just ran through your head, but I've got this young lady that she would make a great junior sponsor, and she might be. She might be one of the best people you have that you can bring. But here's what happened. Somebody brought a 14-year-old young man as a junior sponsor who was a total punk. To me, to my staff, to his own sponsors, and to everybody around him. And because of him, we've had to write this stuff down. And I'm sorry. I know, and I have seen the 14-year-old girls and other boys that were fantastic. And I really would love to have a way to get them to camp, but I just cannot. So here's the other thing you need to know. The ratio of campers to sponsors is you need to have 1 adult sponsor for every 5 kids that you bring to camp. If you bring a junior sponsor, they do not count against your ratio. So if you bring a junior sponsor, they have to have an adult with them too. You need to have 2 adults with your kids all the time. Especially when you're in the cabin, you need to have 2 adults in there with kids all the time. Any questions about any of that? And I know that there are all kinds of special circumstances because I've already heard them, most of them, this summer. I know that there's going to be times when you have sponsors that are moms and dads and they have a kid coming to camp and they either have a younger kid or an older kid. They can't come. This is where grandma comes in. And I wish we could do it different, but we can't. All right, let's keep moving. Background checks. You need to run a background check on everybody that's 18 years old or older, and we need to see that. There's also an affidavit that you need to fill out that basically says these are my sponsors, and the church pastor will need to sign that and say, yes, we did a background check, but I also need to see the background check. In the past, we didn't have to do that. Now we do, because of stuff that happened in Fall Street. Online registration. You guys probably, GBLBA has not done that. Everybody else has done that. Question?
Question about background checks. If we have sponsors coming who are leaders in our church who already have a background check current with our church, is that permissible? What's the time frame that needs to be?
So a background check for us lasts 18 months from the time that we ran the background check.
So we have to have the actual background check to see that.
Yeah, so if you have already run a background check, I still need you to print it off and bring me a copy.
Right.
I wish we didn't. That's not a rule I made. That's a rule I have to live in. So online registration, when you get ready to come to camp, you'll get emailed from Pat a Excel spreadsheet that you need to fill out along with all of these forms that has kids' information, their date of birth, their t-shirt size, and some other stuff. Now, what happens when you bring a kid, or the day before you come to camp, one kid drops out and you want to bring a different kid? You can do that, and GLBA people, you can pretty much do whatever you want to because you're in your own cabin, okay? So if you drop out a boy, you can add a girl. But typically for Crosstimbers, if you drop a girl, you need to replace it with a girl, okay? That always makes it better for us. Okay, keep moving. Check-in. So when you get here on day 1 at between 9:30 and 11, your lead sponsor is going to come to the office. Pat and Jamie and Shannon are probably going to be in the office, and Debbie Miller probably will be in the office. And they're going to be welcoming you with smiling faces, ready to see your paperwork. And they're going to walk through every single piece of paperwork that I told you you need. They're going to make sure that these are together. By the way, when you fill these out, put them in a folder and put them in alphabetical order with both sponsors and kids together alphabetically, okay? That'll help us. They're gonna walk through all that and they're gonna find out, okay, how many armbands do you need? And we're gonna provide for you one $10 armband. So your kids are gonna already get one $10 armband. If they wanna buy more, they can buy all the armbands they wanna buy. I would say if you buy more than one armband for your kids or they buy them, you should hold on to them until they use the first one because they'll go to the canteen and spend every penny they got on day one. So the armbands are gonna be pretty simple. This year, we have a colored armband for your church. So your church will have a different colored armband than anybody else. It also has the canteen money on it. So basically what it has on there is a little 25 cent, 25 cent, 25 cent, 50 cent, 50 cent, dollar, dollar, dollar. Okay, up to $10. That's what's on there. There's no name on it, there's no church name on it, nothing. So you need to write your kid's name and their first name and middle and last initial, okay, on that armband. If they lose it during camp, I can't replace the money that was on it, but I can replace the armband with one that's the color of your church. We've gone from multiple armbands that didn't stand up to the world to a colored armband for your church and a canteen armband that were exactly the same. And it was amazing that the church armband disappeared on day one, but the money one stayed on pretty good the whole time. So we decided, hey, just put the money on the church band and everybody will stay together. If you lose one, they just need to come to the office and get another one. Everybody needs to have an armband on all the time. Okay? Any questions about that?
Can I just say something about the ages? Because our church camp's always been completed 4th through 6th.
Okay.
We left that on our information.
Totally
But
fine.
churches can just, decide if they want to stick to that or go ahead and include their 3rd graders. However, I just was letting everybody know that it'll look different on.
Okay, so for GLBA, 4th grade through 6th grade.
But churches have always kind of, if they had someone, that came in 3rd grade, and we didn't say no, they always kind of made the decision on it.
Yeah. You're gonna find that I have very little mercy when it comes to the rules because I can't have mercy when it comes to that. So if you say that, that's great. But beyond that, for Crosstimbers, I'm a black and white kind of guy, okay? And I'm totally happy to be the bad guy in your church. When you say, I got a parent that really wants to send their 2nd grader, that's fine. You say, Charlie said they can't come. I'm sorry. I would love for them to come. I don't know why Charlie made those stupid rules. I'm fine with that. Okay.
Where have you been all my life?
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
I've
got some people at church.
We need to allow time at check-in, and we're gonna manually write our kids' names on them, is that correct?
Here's what I would tell you to do. I would give those armbands to your sponsor that has 5 kids and let them fill out the 5 kids that they have. Because that will take 2 minutes, where if you try to fill out all 57 of yours, it's going to take forever. It also helps your sponsor see their name and hand it to them, so they're going to learn that kid's name right then and there. All right, so yes, you could do it that way. You can do that any way you want. I'll hand them to you. You do whatever you want to with them. But I would suggest you give them to your sponsors and let them do it because that's the number is really small. Anything else about that? GLBA, yes.
This is my first time doing Crosstimbers, so this may be no question.
No questions.
So we reserved 20 beds. So the 20 beds includes the sponsors.
Yes.
So the 5-to-1 ratio means we have 4 beds per sponsor.
Okay.
Just wanted to verify that that's how that works.
Yeah. So let me elaborate on that a little bit. Let's say you brought 6 kids. How many sponsors would you need? What if you brought 9 kids? How many sponsors would you need? Okay, it's pretty easy. You're exactly right. Now, Davis is different than here because here the beds are not limited. In Davis, we have dorms that have 12 beds in them. And you really need to go 1 to 5, and you need to order beds in groups of 12. Here, you don't have to do that because it's way different here for that. And it's way better, in my opinion. Okay. So, let's talk about beds. GLBA, this doesn't apply to you at all. So, if you're coming to Crosstimbers and you're not coming to GLBA camp and you have reserved beds, and then you turn beds back in because you had too many, or whatever. You now you're responsible for X number of beds, right? Well, when it comes down to it, you're like, oh man, I could use 20 more beds. Or I've got 20 beds and I only need 15. We're going to send you a list of all the churches that are in your section with an email address. We're not going to tell you how many beds they have, but we're going to give you contact information. And you're going to email them and say, hey, I need to buy 5 beds, or I've got 5 beds to sell. Because we would much rather you guys transfer those beds because you're responsible for the 20 beds that you've already done because the turn-in date's gone. If you bring 15 kids, you still got to pay me for 20. But if another church decides to buy those 5 beds from you, they're going to write you a check for those 5 beds. You're still going to write me a check for 20. That make sense?
And how will you know that we've added?
You're going to tell me. You're going to tell me. As soon as you do that, you're going to email Pat and say, hey, we traded beds with so-and-so. So we're going to have this many and they're going to have that many. Again, we can help with that. If you need more beds at some point, we can help, especially here at Grand Lake. However, I really want you to take care of the other churches, and I want the other churches not to have to pay for beds that they don't put kids in. Now for me, whenever I got ready to go to camp and I had 3 beds left, I was going down the street, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? You want to go to camp? And I took them. So, but don't, whatever you do, communicate with us so that we can help you. We want camp to be the best experience possible. We don't want to have great first. All right. Cabin assignments. I'm not making any promises about cabin assignments today. That it might be GLBA. You guys know where you're going. I'm not worried about you guys at all. If you're not GLBA, then we're either going to do it like we did last time, where boys are in one set of cabins and girls are in another, or we're going to be able to put churches in a cabin by themselves. We haven't figured that out yet. We'll let you know that as soon as we can. But your camp doesn't start until like the middle of July, or June, so we got time. So we've already talked about concession wristbands. They're the same as ID bands. All right. It is now 11:53 and lunch is here. And it'll be much more fun for you to be eating while we go through policies and procedures. So here's what we're going to do. Now, I'm going to go through policies and procedures fairly quickly because I really